Mental health providers are caring, compassionate, and serve their clients without reservation. The well-being of others is often their first priority. In recent years, we have seen the calls for mental health services increase, while the severity and nature of those requests have intensified. As a result, providers may find themselves with a well-founded concern for their safety. When police officers make traffic stops or other interactions with the public, they call in by radio, have personal safety equipment, and training to use that equipment to protect themselves and others. In addition, training from the beginning of their career often focuses on physical safety. The purpose of this video is to provide some ideas and concepts to help make the difficult but vital mission of assisting persons in crisis a little safer. This video is intended to provide some ideas and concepts that an agency may wish to make part of their operations. Please take from it what you feel would be best for your personnel and clients. The video is not meant to tell an agency or provider what to do, more to begin the conversation about how organizations and their personnel can enhance their personal safety while still providing the life-saving resources that so many depend upon. Our hope is that this video will provide some ideas and concepts that can be available in the unlikely event that you find yourself concerned about your personal safety. Much of what we will cover you can also incorporate in your everyday life and help you feel safer. My name is Steve Click, and I serve as the Director of the Ohio Office of First Responder Wellness. I'm a 36-year veteran of the Ohio State Highway Patrol and served in many capacities during my career, including training and executive protection. After retirement in 2018, I had the opportunity to work for Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services as their first responder liaison. This time in my career allowed me to learn more closely how important and beneficial mental health providers are. It was a great opportunity to see how law enforcement and mental health can blend and interact together to assist others.
I am Nikki Riley, and I serve as the First Responder Liaison for Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. I've been a police officer for 16 years. I retired from Reynoldsburg Police Department, where I worked as a detective for 5 years.
When mental health providers are working with clients or persons in crisis, often the last consideration, if it's a consideration at all, is your personal safety. You are coming from a place of wanting to help this person and be the compassionate, caring listener to what they are dealing with. Most of the time, this interaction happens without incident. However, as we see calls for service increase and mental health resources further taxed by staffing issues, more and more will be requested of these professionals. Our goal is not to change your desire to help others or think like law enforcement officers. We want to provide you some simple and easy ideas to help you feel safer during these interactions.
Anyone can find themselves in a precarious position or feeling uneasy about a situation. This has nothing to do with age, gender, or the other way we think of ourselves. Addressing these possibilities and coming up with an easy-to-remember and workable plan will provide better confidence while never sacrificing client care. Let's start with letting someone know where you are going and for how long you will be there. When law enforcement makes a traffic stop, goes to a home or business, or has contact with someone, they call this information into the dispatcher. The information includes the license plate, description of the vehicle, occupant, and most importantly, the location. Sometimes officers will advise the reason for the stop as well. The dispatcher knows how long to give the officer before they receive a checkup. Depending on the officer, the nature of the stop or call, and the agency's policy, they may give a few minutes for the officer to respond. But if they do not, assistance is immediately sent to make sure the officer is safe. Many agencies even check on officers at certain intervals if they have not been in contact for any other reason.
We suggest before you meet someone outside of the office environment, make sure someone knows where you are going to be. Provide an address and a description if this is a residence, business, or other location. This can be as simple as putting the meeting address and time in your Outlook calendar and sharing it with your supervisor. Consider creating a group text with fellow team members that will allow you to share brief details of your client meeting, such as address, time, expected length of the meeting. This allows multiple people to overlap responsibility in checking on you. Do not leave your meeting information on a note or voicemail. Talk to someone who will be available to check back at the designated time. Establish a set time for you to check back in or have them call you. This could depend on the nature of the visit, location of the visit, how familiar you are with the client and their family. An example would be, I'm at 3631 West Elm Street to meet with Susan Jones at her home. I should be here about 30 minutes and I'll call when I leave. If you know from prior visits to that particular location, that there is no cell phone service, make a note of that as well. It is imperative that whoever takes down this information stays available to make a call back if you don't call within the set time frame. You could have lost track of time, the person may be talking, doesn't matter. I know many providers turn off their phone or leave it in the car or office, but in 2023, we can't afford not to be able to request assistance. You can answer by voice or text, but you need a way to let your office know that you need assistance. The other person may demand that you put the call on speaker so that they can hear the conversation. One suggestion would be to, when the office calls you and you answer, but have to turn the speaker on, refer to that person by the wrong name. All of your staff should decide on a name to be used as a code to signal something is wrong. By designating a certain name, anyone in the office will be alerted something is wrong if that name is spoken. You can also say something that sounds innocent but would be out of place for you to say normally. It is very important that the caller react naturally and not let them know that something is amiss. Don't correct the provider or ask what's wrong. Act as though everything is good and you were just checking in regarding an appointment or a request. Immediately contact the law enforcement agency that has jurisdiction. Provide a description of the provider, including name, physical description, and phone number. Provide the address, how long they've been there, and if known, the nature of the meeting. If you have the name of the person being met, provide that also. Include any known history. Example, suicidal, has been known to have weapons, criminal record, etc. You are not violating confidentiality. The law enforcement agency needs to have as much information as possible to safely plan their response. As the provider, you are always able to call back and cancel if everything calms down and you no longer feel at risk. Do not wait until the last minute to complete your visit and require paperwork. If you do, you may feel pressured to enter an unsafe situation just to meet a deadline. Don't be surprised if law enforcement shows up anyway, just to confirm you are safe. Familiarize yourself with documentation requirements for the behavioral health and when HIPAA applies in an imminent danger situation. You can refer to the Department of Justice documents, which provide guidelines regarding HIPAA.
If a meeting or interaction with someone makes you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, this needs to be documented as soon as possible with your agency per their policy. Agencies should cover their policy with new staff at the beginning of employment. Do not wait until the incident occurs to figure out what the policy is. The documentation should be maintained as any other therapeutic notes, but must be accessible to someone in the event of an emergency. You should also speak to your supervisor so they are aware of anyone who expresses a threat towards you, the agency, or anyone else. Regardless if you feel the threat was serious, it may require reporting to law enforcement. Before you're going to meet a new client, ask around the office if anyone has had prior contact with the location or person. Agencies should develop a system tracking locations and persons who could be a safety concern and make sure all staff know where to find that information. Individual providers should be encouraged to share the information after any type of incident that causes concern. If threats are made, any further meetings should be in a safe place, not in the person's home or anywhere that is isolated. Much of this will depend on the threat and your professional assessment of the threat. If the threat is made against you or your family, it should be reported to law enforcement. They have resources to do threat assessment, including criminal history, past calls to the location, and also the person's social media. Explain to clients that your agency has a no weapons policy and monitors home visits for safety. It is important to make the client understand that your agency takes safety seriously and there are things in place to ensure this safety. Trust your instincts. If you feel something is off, trust yourself. Make an excuse and leave the area. Don't antagonize the person, just give a reasonable explanation as why you need to leave. For example, my son has a dentist appointment that I forgot about.
Let's talk about locations and rules of thumb for a minute. Some level of privacy is required, but you need to keep your safety in mind. A few do's and don'ts to think about. 1. Do not get in their vehicle at any time. 2. If you need to transport someone, think about the following. Assess the client's level of agitation prior to allowing them in your vehicle. Do not allow them to sit behind you in the back seat. Take known routes if possible, with familiar and available safe stopping points should there be an emergency. Make sure your vehicle is in good working condition with an ample amount of gasoline. Ensure your cell phone is fully charged with emergency numbers pre-programmed. Check vehicle for items that could be possibly used as weapons, pens, pencils, blunt objects, lighters, charging cords, etc. Make sure your office has a description, including license plate number for your vehicle, in the event law enforcement is requested to locate the vehicle. Do not leave anyone unattended in your vehicle, even if the ignition is turned off. This allows access to address and other information that we keep in our cars. If you must meet in an isolated or remote location, always take someone with you, especially at night. If possible, meet during business hours. Do not meet at your home unless that is where your office is located. Then there should be a separation of the house and the office. Do not meet in a bar, if possible. Do not park in the driveway of a client's home. If you see weapons, leave. If the person is using illicit drugs, leave. If they make any threats against you or anyone else, leave. Wherever you meet them, make sure you stay between them and the door. Be aware of the most dangerous areas of a house, such as the kitchen, due to knives and other potential weapons. Don't allow a door to be locked or doesn't open easily. Here's some other considerations. Keep a portfolio or notebook with you. This can be used as a shield or a weapon if necessary. Consider taking minimal items inside with you, like notebooks, keys, and so forth. If you do have a purse or backpack, keep it close and don't leave it alone if you step out of the room. Keep your phone charged and handy. Consider keeping an extra set of sneakers in your car to change into for home visits in case you wore dress shoes or heels to the office. Think about what kind of accessories you may be wearing that could be used to harm or choke you, for instance, scarves, thick neckties, strings and hoods, and so forth. Look around, know where the door is, where it leads, and where is an exit. Look for nonverbal clues of anger and aggression, such as clenched fists or teeth, rapid breathing, a fixed stare, or looking around to indicate a person may be planning their next move. Always exhibit confidence and self-assurance.
It's important that everyone at the agency be familiar with the policies regarding visits with persons away from the office. Again, it's imperative that someone know where you are, how long you plan to be there, and how you will let them know you need assistance. Be aware of the potential that additional people in a home could also pose a threat. Upon arrival, ask who all is inside the residence. Never compromise safety by not taking a second person with you. Your safety takes precedence over everything. You have a responsibility to come home safely to your family, loved ones, and others who depend on you.
For just a minute, let's talk about office safety. Consider installing a remote unlocking device for the door so that whoever comes can be controlled. If meeting in a private rooms at the office, consider a duress alarm that allows you to let others in the office know you need assistance without alarming the person you are meeting. Create enough distance between yourself and the client when seated so that you have time to react should a situation occur. It is important that you have access to the door to make a quick exit. If a person enters with a visible weapon, ask them to calmly leave. Exceptions may need to be made for law enforcement personnel who are armed, often armed off-duty. If you feel uncomfortable, ask them to secure the weapon in their vehicle or leave. Again, your safety is most important. Consider security cameras inside and outside. Have the recording kept off-site. Make sure the cameras are visible and you can post a notice that the cameras are in use. This would not need to be used in the private offices or meeting rooms. Consider intrusion and duress alarms for the facility. This can make calling for law enforcement, fire, EMS faster than a phone call. Invite law enforcement, fire, and EMS to tour your facility to assist if they have to respond in the event of an emergency. Establish a relationship with local law enforcement. Building this relationship will provide a two-way means of communication between the mental health provider but also the law enforcement agency. Do not hesitate to contact the law enforcement agency if you have concerns. They are available to respond, evaluate the situation, and consult with you on the best course of action. Have signage clearly displayed, especially the address, so that safety services can locate you quickly. Consider installing deadbolts on bathroom doors that have a policy that in the event of an active shooter, personnel can barricade themselves in those bathrooms until emergency services arrive. Do not open the doors unless absolutely positive safety services are who are outside the door. This includes for others who may be forced to ask you to open the door. Agencies should consider providing a locked space for staff to keep their personal items, such as purses, wallets, car keys, and phones. This can reduce the risk of theft due to the high volume of people in and out of the office during the day. Have first aid supplies on site in case of accident or emergency, and make sure all staff know the office address or have it posted near all phones.
There's no way to cover all possible situations you could find yourself in. Our goal with this video is to start the conversation about your personal safety. As always, follow the policies and procedures of your agency.
Ultimately, the best protection is to be aware of your situation and surroundings, plan for the unexpected, and always keep your personal safety your first priority.
On behalf of Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services
And the Ohio Office of First Responder Wellness,
we want to thank you for the invaluable service you provide to the communities and people you help every day.
we also want to thank the mental health provider agencies across Ohio who are always there for their communities and their first responder organizations in their areas. If there is anything we can do to be of assistance, please contact us.